Hi, honey.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I don't know why it feels weird to interview you. It shouldn't because I talk to you every day.
I know, we talk a lot every day.
I try to make you talk a lot. Scuyler told me once that he has spoken more to me than anyone in his entire life total. Like if you add them all up, family and everything, he's talked more to me in 8 years.
I'd say that's probably correct.
Yeah. I had to force you. But you talk a lot. And you think of yourself as like not talking a lot and being quiet. But I wouldn't have married you if you didn't talk that much.
I think I just prefer being not talkative.
Yeah. That's your preference. But you can. And like if I need you to talk to me about something, you always do.
Yeah, no, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Okay, so Scuyler has a year today.
Yep.
Which is amazing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And you know what? Actually, before we even say anything, I want to say this part, which is that, and I think people mostly know this, but I stayed with you and left you in the house until the very end, right? Like I didn't kick you out, so to speak, until like July or June. But the reason for that, and I think this is important, is that you were working through March and then you had disability, which you were giving me most of. So like you were still supporting us the whole time. And I think that makes a difference because if you weren't supporting us and you were just like a drag on me and I was spending a bunch of money to take care of you somehow, I don't think I would have, because that's what finally made me kick you out is the disability ended and then there was no money.
Yeah, then I was useless.
I was like, well, now I need a roommate. Now things are real. And so I think it's important that like with all the shitty things that happened, you did your best to continue to try to keep me and Tank like in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was trying, but I was at least providing through, like you were saying, unemployment and getting paid through work. So a little bit. And
you had the option with disability to take it all or not.
Yeah.
You could have transferred it back to your account and you didn't. Like you took
I think there was one.
The last one you took completely.
Yeah, one time I took everything.
Yes. And it was like the last one, I think.
Yeah.
And that was when you escaped detox at SCRC and sent me the picture that you had Googled of the gym.
Oh, the gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was on point.
So at the very end, I was pretty sure Scuyler had left detox, but I didn't know. And I was like, where are you guys? What are you doing today? And he said, we're at the gym. And I don't know if it was like a weird time of day or something. I just kind of knew. And I was like, all right, can you send me a picture, please? And he sent me a picture of equipment in a gym and it was empty. And I was like, where is everyone?
I think it was from the website.
It was.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know. No one's here. I guess it's slow.
Yeah.
And so I Googled 24-hour fitness Costa Mesa, the one that he would be at. And the first picture that popped up was that. It was like their opening day, all of their equipment shiny and new and no one in there. And he had just screenshot that and sent it to me.
Yeah, I'm not the best criminal mastermind when it comes
to
stuff like that.
Actually, in a lot of ways you are. In a lot of ways, you're much trickier than I ever gave you fucking credit for.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think in my mind, I never expected you to believe it. I was just so lost that it was kind of like, oh, this is the best I can do in this moment. But I don't think I ever believed like you would actually fall for it. I think it was more just.
Well, it buys you time too.
Yeah.
Like maybe I will, you know what I mean? At least this will shut her up. Not that you would think shut her up, because I know you don't think in those words, but like this will stop her from going after me for a few minutes at least.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
And give me more time. So
this might buy me a couple minutes.
Yeah. Anyways. Okay. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about like your background and growing up, but I do think it's good to always give context because I want to talk more about your current recovery because I think that's like what's so helpful for people to hear because like, no offense, but you're the gnarliest, worst addict I've ever met in my entire life. Like worse than or any of those guys I was with at Choices, anybody from jail. But that's a good thing to show people because now you have a year and you've actually gotten a year multiple times and you don't stop trying.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't stop trying. You weren't at the end of this last year for sure. But like for the most part, you never stop trying, and you don't want to be living as a drug addict, right? Like, I feel like no part of you wants to be using ever.
No, I feel like I got a glimpse of what life could be like 8 years ago when I first went to SCRC, of what life could be like sober. And that was probably the first time since I was 15 where, like, I don't think my life was normal before that, whatever mental health issues I dealt with. But I feel like that was the first moment I actually believed, like, oh, you could live life sober.
Totally.
And I didn't stay sober that whole time. I've relapsed consistently for 8 years, but I feel like I got enough joy with my group of friends and what I was doing to where, like, I would always remember, like, you can be happy.
Yeah, totally.
You can live sober. So.
Yeah. No, even though you didn't have consistent clean time after that, I would also consider that where your recovery journey started.
Yeah.
So whatever that was, March 20th of, 2017 or whenever that was, you're right. You would use sometimes, but it was like you were in recovery.
Yeah. It was
and like, coming back. It
was like a day or two.
It would be a day or two. It was never like what just happened. Yeah. And that's the other thing I feel like sometimes people don't understand, or like your family. Sometimes I feel bad because your sister will be like, wait, what? Like, we thought he had like 3 years, and I'm like, well, we didn't ever like say that. And he didn't have 3 years in a row, but he almost did. He would use for one day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you were putting together achievements at work. We were progressing in our lives, our marriage, our relationship. You were living the life of someone that was progressing in life, not the life that you had in your 20s, which was just like a shit show of being homeless and going to jail and robbing people. And
yeah, that was normal.
Yeah, it wasn't that after. You know what I mean? After when I met you. So anyways, okay. So tell everybody where you're from and a little bit about your family.
I grew up in a very nice area in Northern California. My mom and dad were together. I grew up, I have, my dad was a recovering alcoholic. Alcoholism, suicide, mental health is prominent in both sides of my family. But from the outside, I had pretty much the perfect upbringing.
Yeah.
Like we said, like I got to vacation on the East Coast every summer for 3 months. We got to go on vacations. We had a family home that was in our family for 89
generations.
Like
yeah.
Generational.
Yeah.
House. Yeah. I mean, to me, it was normal.
Mm-hmm.
Probably to 99% of the people out there, that's not normal.
Right.
But I think that lifestyle played into how bad my addiction was, because where I came from, we were middle class.
In that world.
In the world we lived in, we were middle class.
Your family would have been. Okay.
My family.
Okay.
Even though we came from a very upper 1% area, we were not the 1% of that area.
Right. Okay. That's true. That's fair.
So.
Did you know that at the time? Did you feel that?
Yes.
Oh, you did?
It was very clear.
Okay. Well, yeah, because other families had like planes and shit.
Yeah. It was not a normal situation.
Right.
And I think when my addiction kicked off, I was lost to the fact that, like, we weren't those people. And to me, it was like, oh, I could steal $1,000 from my mom and they wouldn't notice. And like back then, like, you didn't check your bank account till the end of the month. So like I got away with it.
Right.
But I was more just like, yeah, you guys could afford to lose $1,000, but in reality, they couldn't.
Right, so
totally. I think my upbringing and my delusion of kind of our situation played into how bad of an addict I was.
I would totally agree with that, and that's very insightful. And I didn't know if you ever thought that.
Totally.
Actually,
no, I mean, later in life.
Right.
Later in life, I got it.
Because the other thing about you that's different that I've never experienced is the money you spend on drugs is more than anybody else I've ever met.
Because most people, so oxycontin is my drug of choice, and speed and uppers, but mostly oxycontin. And most people at some point can't afford to do oxycontin and jump to heroin. I've shot heroin before.
Once.
I've done heroin multiple times, other ways.
Yeah.
But I just loved oxycontin.
Yeah.
So I would just, so when it went from like 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to $60 a pill, I just had to up my hustle. Basically.
Yeah.
I refused to stop doing it. So like I never switched
right
from opiates to heroin.
Right.
I just stuck and just went
right
as hard as I possibly could.
Yeah, I'd say you've done heroin less than 20 times, right? Like
probably 10 times.
Right, exactly. You just kept doing oxy instead, no matter what it took.
And it was mostly when I was detoxing and you couldn't get it. But the sad thing was you could get morphine and heroin and stuff like that at certain points, and I refused. Oxycontin had such a grip on me that I refused to do anything else because nothing got me as high as Oxycontin did.
Is that why? So if you did heroin, you weren't as high. And guys, I know I sound like shit. I'm so sick today. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it felt different. If you did heroin, it wasn't the same.
It didn't do anything.
Is oxy stronger than heroin? Because I'm the opposite. I never did oxy. I went straight to heroin. Is it stronger?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think how it affected me.
Yeah.
Whatever chemical and whatever it does. I also snort drugs. So
right.
And this is the old Oxycontin, not the blues, the 30s. And
okay.
This was the original Oxycontin I'm talking about.
The 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. Just something about that particular drug, just refuse to do anything else.
It is all brain chemistry. I think the longer I've done the show, the more I've learned that. I used to think that certain personalities liked different drugs. I'm more of a talker, and so of course I liked uppers, but but
no,
but I've met people that are huge talkers and they preferred opiates, and so I think it is just brain chemistry and how something hits you. Because cocaine hit me bad. I loved it, but it was awful. But meth, I had kind of an easy come down from. It wasn't that bad. And that's not the case for most people. So it's just brain chemistry. So
and it didn't start at opiates. And I guess we can get into that.
Yeah.
We go through childhood.
Yeah.
My addiction didn't start with opiates. It started with cocaine.
Right. Okay. So kind of normal, but super wealthy.
Yeah, a very different sort of lifestyle.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was never going to have to work. I was never going to have to do anything. Everything was going to be handed to me.
Yeah.
I probably got my money habits from my father,
mm-hmm.
who grew up in a much different sort of place than we did. Didn't have any money. Won't go into his situation, but he made it in life, and he spent his money thinking he could just spend whatever he wanted to, and that wasn't the case. And I definitely have broken that habit a little bit.
I think you have.
I've definitely
this year you have.
Yeah, I definitely grew up with that habit.
Right.
Yeah.
The mentality of there will always be more. I don't have to budget. I don't have to budget.
Totally. And I guess along with the childhood, so I have a sister, an older sister. My dad traveled. He wasn't home a lot. He maybe 2/3 of the year was traveling. So it was just me, my mom, my sister, and I. Basically, it was my sister that took care of me most of the time. My mom, I love her to death, and she's probably one of the nicest human beings ever. But
absolutely,
I don't think her dad died when she was pregnant with me. So about my age when my father passed away. I don't know. She must have just didn't take it that well.
Oh, you think? You think that's part of it? Okay.
But my sister raised me.
Yeah.
My mom tells a story of my sister, I missed a doctor's appointment, and my mom got mad at my sister about why my sister didn't remind her to take me to the doctor, and my sister was 7.
Yeah. Well, she was like, why didn't you write it on the calendar?
Yeah.
And Kim was like, because I'm 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that's just, it was just a crazy, crazy household. I mean, my sister is super straight edge, very square. I mean, she partied a lot and did what kids did, but the most trouble she got in, I think she went across the street to the school. But yeah, she snuck over and was drinking beers at the school across the street, and
right.
The police,
but she did really well in school. She went to a good college, very high achieving.
Yeah, my sister is very high functioning, and she definitely is like my dad in that sense. She's very, very hardworking and hustles and grinds and stuff like that. I probably get more of my mom, where it's very relaxed and mellow and just see what happens in the world. But as a kid, I had sports. Yeah. So it's still hard for me to describe I think I suffer from a multitude of mental health issues. Probably suffer from some sort of schizoaffectiveness to some extent. I've always kind of heard voices, and I feel bad saying this because like I'm sure my family will hear this, but like I always felt awkward in the house. Like I always felt like I could hear my mom and dad talking about me or my sister when I was by myself. So like if I'm alone, that's how I feel. If I'm interacting with my sister, it goes away. Or if I'm individually interacting with my mom, it goes away. But if I'm by myself, that comes out. So like that wasn't just in the house, that was in every area of my life. So I thrived in sports, but I remember as a kid, like I would be running down the soccer field and I'd see every face that would go by and I'd think they were talking about me. Like I would like hear voices, like, and when I look back now, I'm like, how the fuck did you function? Like how did you function? And I hid it really well.
Yeah.
And I still hide it really well. And I think I just learned from a young age to...
Well, kind of like paranoid personality disorder, I think.
Yeah.
Is what I started to think this year, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But with everything that happened, and you told me, I've always thought this.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think...
It's definitely like, I've had a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's definitely shaped my life, and it's like, whether it's like ruined relationships or stuff like that, it keeps me arm's length from people at all times, because like I don't trust people because I have imaginary conversations in my head and stuff like that. But yeah, so aside from that, so like great childhood, extremely difficult mental health situation that I hid from my family and from everybody. The only thing that ever came up with me is reading. I had some sort of ADD. I couldn't retain information. So like if I read a book, I'd read a word and think about something else, and read like a sentence and think about, so I could read a whole page and not remember anything.
Yeah.
Period. So school was hard for me. It was hard for me to do homework. It was hard for me to sit down and do anything after school. It was hard for me to pay attention during class. The mental health stuff obviously was extremely difficult. And also just the way I learned was different. And that I think played into the career that I fell into, because you learn differently in what I do than you do in school. I'm much more of a hands-on learner than like visually looking at something. So that happened. So great family life, bad mental health issues, but I had sports. And I think what I liked about sports the most was like the camaraderie, because I felt at all times I was alone in the world. Like my mom and sister are the most loving people, and my mom and sister my mom's done more to try to keep me alive and like out of prison and jail, and
they adore you, they love you. But it was still hard for you to feel that though.
Yeah, it's hard for me to really grasp like that love. And I think just through life, it's just hard for me to like get that, because I'm always like keep people at arm's length. But with sports, it was less about like my individual achievements, and it was more like the group sports, because something about sports, you actually get to feel like a group. Like it was the time in my life where like you felt a part of. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
I was extremely good at
And you were super duper, super good. And guys, I know people say that, but he was like dumb, athletic, good, gifted, gonna play professionally.
Well, yeah.
Really.
Well, I'll get into that. So, yeah, I played sports, I guess specifically soccer. I was always 2 years ahead. So like I was 2 years up from where I should have been. I think if I had a coach that was brutal. He was from England, probably changed the trajectory in my life. And if I would have stayed with that coach, so it went from 12 and under to 14, I switched coaches. And I think at that point, I stopped progressing. Oh, okay. I think if I would have progressed from where I was when I was 12 and under with that coach, or kept training as hard as I was, I potentially could have made something of my life.
Well,
sports.
But the injury happened.
Well, yeah. But what I'm saying is, I think at my core, I'm lazy.
No, you're not. Yeah. I don't think you are.
Yeah.
You're like the most disciplined person I've ever. You get up at 3:30 in the morning to go to the gym.
Now.
Oh, okay.
No. I think for me so I had a coach that just forced you to, I mean, like, I cried my first practice. I literally cried. I got in the car and cried and told my mom and dad I didn't want to ever do this again. And they're like, okay, like, whatever. And I went back and I got better and better and better and better and better. When I was younger, I think the mentality of not having to work for stuff, it played into every area of my life. And if I didn't have somebody pushing me to really like go hard or do something, it's very hard for me to like push myself.
To find inner motivation.
Totally.
Okay.
And I think that delusional mentality of growing up where I was and what we had, I think that it's just the bigger picture of just like, you don't have to work hard. Your family has a little bit of money. Like, it's delusional. It's not true. And people aren't.
Well, but you thought it was.
Oh, I thought it was totally, I believed it for most of my life.
Right.
For sure.
Right. You still thought that when I met you, I think.
Yeah.
To some extent.
No, for a long time. I'm not saying this was, most of my life I thought that. So fast forward ahead, 15 years old, playing soccer. I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus, kind of the story you hear about a lot of people. And it's very hard to describe to the average person when all you know is something. And it's not even all you know, like your whole mental health, your whole world revolves around this one thing. And you don't really realize it at that point. So like, I didn't know like this was what was like keeping me together. And I went in for surgery. I remember waking up a different person. Like I went in one person and I came out another.
Really?
Yeah. And
in what way?
I don't know. I went in, I believed my sports, it was over. I really believed that before I went in. But when I came out, I don't know if it was like the anesthesia or just the pain pills or whatever it was. But like I came out and like just looking back, it was different.
Okay.
It just was different. The not working hard unless I'm being forced to played a huge role in like I didn't rehab fully ever. Life was very different 20 years ago. Insurance was brutal. They only covered, I think, like 5 weeks of rehab. It was very different. Things were different. I mean, it's basically like, here's 5 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot though. I was highly prescribed pain medication, but my downfall didn't start with pain medication. So through my childhood, I probably had never committed a crime in my life. I was very straight edge. I was very square. I'd smoked weed with a couple friends probably in like 8th grade or 9th grade or whatever. Drank a little bit, like, but all in all, like, and some of my friends would probably know from like the East Coast, like they'd smoke cigarettes and I'd get super fucking mad and not want to hang out with them, or they'd want to go out and do stuff and I just want to stay home. Like I was very, very square.
Yeah.
And I had my surgery in October of my sophomore year. And by Christmas break of December, I was strung out on cocaine. So what I found with drugs is it enabled the noise and the craziness in my mind to shut off.
Okay.
And
even with cocaine, which is an upper?
Even with cocaine.
Okay.
And I think it allowed me to find, it's like shitty to say, I found like I found a purpose again. And it was to be a cokehead. It was to be a cokehead. But that's all,
Yeah.
That's literally like, I was trying to like grasp onto shit. Like,
yeah.
Like,
were you depressed because you felt like I was going to play soccer and now I can't?
Well, that's why I go back to like when I was 12, like the jump. I think in my mind back then, I probably could have gone to Europe and like at a very young age. Like I probably like, if I had a family that forced me to do stuff like sports families, my life might have turned out differently.
Like if my dad was your dad.
Totally. My parents were very, and I wouldn't change my childhood for anything.
Right.
So I'm not saying this that it's a bad thing. And, but my mom and dad were basically like, they don't force you to do shit. And then my mom was forced to do stuff as a kid and my dad had a rough childhood. So I think they both were like, we're going to let our kids do whatever they want.
They're more relaxed in their parenting style.
Totally. My dad was always like, if you want to be a dump trash, like if you want to
trash man, garbage man. Yeah.
Just be the best garbage. Like, really.
Yeah.
And that was like his motto. Just like,
I think there's value in that too, though.
Totally. And I think it caught on later in life again with the career that I found.
Yeah.
But my parents never forced me. They forced my sister to.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. My sister had to work her ass off every summer.
Why do you think it was different?
I don't know. We'll have to ask. I'll have to ask my sister.
KK.
I'll have to ask my sister one of these days.
Yeah.
My dad was very hard on my sister. I think, and he had brought it up. I think I had asked him before, or he had brought it up. It was, the real world is hard for women. And I think my dad was trying to instill in my sister a work ethic that nobody was going to be able to like put her down. And my sister is like that. Like,
yeah, it worked.
Her, and everybody that's ever met her has probably the same. Like,
she's awesome.
Yeah, she is a pit bull. She is ruthless, but she works very, very, very hard. My dad pushed her like that, but my parents never pushed me like that. And part of it was my dad was an athletic. He was.
Yeah, that's part of it too, huh?
I think part of it was I was my dad's goal. Everything my dad ever wanted was me.
Right.
So they let.
Like the golden child.
Yeah. I was great at sports.
Yeah.
Like, I was friends with everybody. Like,
yeah.
I was
popular, good looking.
I wasn't. Like,
Abercrombie and Fitch looking kid.
I wasn't like an asshole. Like I was friends with no matter who you were. I was friends with you. Like it wasn't just like, oh, you're a jock, hang out. Like my best friend was not one of those people.
Right.
It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And it made my life a little difficult. But again, I wouldn't go back and change anything about how I grew up.
Yeah.
So getting back into the cocaine. So for real drug addicts, for people that have the disease, like the actual disease, the first time you take something, you know it. Like, you know, when you put something else in your body and it changed, like, it's like people like the aha moment, like, oh, like life is great. Like, I literally, from the second I did cocaine, didn't want to stop, no matter what. And I went from a quiet, good kid to total cocaine addict my sophomore year of high school. It got so bad so quickly. Somebody called the school and told them that they needed to tell they called my parents. My dad drove to school one day and picked me up.
Do you know who called the school? Was it like a friend of yours?
It was anonymous. I don't know.
But looking back, you really have no idea?
No. I mean,
was it somebody looking out for you or somebody trying to get you in trouble? Do you know?
No, I think it was somebody looking out for me for sure.
Was it your girlfriend at the time?
No, when this happened, I don't think I was dating anybody. Whoever it was, I think they were trying to help me out in this situation. I don't think it was malicious. Okay. My dad came and picked me up and drove me. So my dad had been sober for 30 plus years at this point in my life. So he understands addiction or alcoholism, addiction, all that. But on my defense, I had just had knee surgery. I'd lost everything. I was depressed. So I was able to basically say, no, I'm not doing cocaine. Like, I'm just depressed. Like my grades were starting to go down. Like, I was never home. I was just partying at my friend's house whose parents were never home. And yeah, I mean, other than that, for the rest of my sophomore year and junior year, that's all I really remember. Okay. Is just drugs. Okay. Almost every day, whether it was like a Vicodin, a Percocet, cocaine, Adderall, Ritalin. I got prescribed Ritalin. I think it was my sophomore year of high school. Okay. In the moment, it actually helped. But I think because of my circumstances with the injury and everything else, just shit spiraled pretty bad. How did you have money to buy drugs every day? Well, again, life was different back then. Drugs were cheaper. I mean, I'd ask my mom and dad for $50, $60 a day. Okay. And I think... So you kind of had like an allowance, I guess. I got like an allowance. Okay. I never had to work, so I never had money, but like I'd get an allowance for doing stuff around the house. Okay. Being there and just however I got it. I wasn't doing criminal activity. I guess that's what I'm wondering. So it's not that yet. Okay. No. Junior, senior year, a lot of ecstasy, a lot of cocaine, a lot of partying, drinking. I was always the kid that was blacked out first. I I was not a good drinker.
You don't respond well to alcohol.
I do not respond well to alcohol. It's probably another sign I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, just bad. Like I would just, all I cared about was getting as fucked up as possible and just not stopping doing drugs. I think it kept me away from people socially also, because when you're doing that level of drugs, you're not interacting with the normal sober, like happy-go-lucky crowd at a party. You're sneaking off into like a bathroom, or you're going out to the car. You're doing just shady drug addict stuff.
Yeah.
And I think I thrived in that life because I didn't have to interact with people. So I think my drug addiction like coincided with my mental health, and it just like I found a way to not have to deal with people, but to like shut off the noise a little bit. And the people I was interacting with were also drug addicts.
Right. Would you think people were talking about you still, or no, if you were using?
If I were using, no.
Okay.
Also, we were getting cocaine that was like extremely pure.
Yeah.
Again, this was a long time ago. Drugs have changed. So I think my experience with cocaine was not normal. Also. Right. Where we came from, my buddy's dad was like the mayor of the town. His parents were never home. It was this absolute castle of a place where we could just do what we wanted. And we'd just get as fucked up as possible and party and do whatever we wanted. So like we had no consequences. Nobody ever got in trouble. Nobody ever got busted. I never got caught with drugs, ever. I probably through my life, I barely ever got caught with drugs.
Unless by me, but not the cops.
Few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in general, I never like encounters like that.
Okay.
With people.
No law enforcement encounters.
No.
Did your parents start to think something was wrong?
I don't know. I've never really asked. Okay. I think they thought something was wrong, but they understood that I was struggling because of and I kind of used that for a while.
Okay.
Fast forward, I mean, junior year, I don't think I played golf, I think, in high school, or I think that was all I played junior year. Fast forward, I was kind of more of a mess. Like in the summer, I was trying to like buy pain pills and Adderall and like stuff. I just like, all I was searching for was a head change at that point. But I hadn't found oxycontin yet. Okay. I'd actually I had a buddy who you know, Andrew.
Okay.
He had a friend who had passed away. I think he had taken oxycontin and threw up in his sleep, or that whole whatever that happens to you. Okay. And it scared me enough to never do it. I had opportunities to do it before, like when I was buying Percocet and stuff. Like they were readily available back then, and I'd never wanted to do it. I was always scared to do it. Fast forward, before senior year, I came back from Nantucket. I had the house to myself for a couple of days. I got really spun out on cocaine. It was like washing the windows, like at night. Like it was really bad. My brain probably started going down a little bit at this point. And my buddy, who was kind of my partner in crime using through high school, who passed away, had like an oxycontin, it was like a 5 milligram pill. And I was scared, but I was so spun out. I think my dad was coming home the next day. So I was like, fuck, I got to do something to like chill out. And I snorted half of a 5 milligram oxycontin. And that was the sun, like it was like the sunrise came up and you're like, oh, like this is it. Okay. This is it. And from that point, I had never stopped doing it. Okay. There were, days you couldn't get it. Right. Like, I was always like detoxing, getting high, detoxing, getting high. But from that moment, I never stopped trying to get it. Okay. And very, very quickly, my life fell apart. I started doing crystal meth because OxyContin makes you nod out no matter what you're doing. So like I'd be nodding out in class, and then somebody that worked for my buddy's family was like getting us crystal meth, and we were smoking crystal meth. So like life really got bad really quickly, right? I think at that point, my family, my mom and dad knew something was wrong. My sister was away at college.
Yeah.
I think if my sister was there, this would have never happened.
Well, she has said that.
Yeah. If my sister was present,
yeah,
she would have known immediately and would have what my ass, basically.
One of the most like profound moments I think I ever had with your sister, she was like folding clothes at night. How she's always like folding clothes at night.
Yeah,
like my picture of your sister is like folding clothes at night. Yeah. And I think I never put together. So I said, well, what did you think when he was using? And she was like, I wasn't here.
Yeah, she was in college.
Yeah, she was like, it was the year I left. And I was like, oh. And she was like, that wouldn't have happened if I was here.
Yeah.
And I was struck by a few different things. One, how much responsibility she took over you maternally.
Yeah.
Which explains a lot about
how mad she got and like
well, and y'all's dynamic and how she always wants to see you. She loves you so much. Like, you know, and my family is a little bit different.
Yeah. It's okay.
I love my dad. I love my mom.
It's okay.
Danny and I have a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
When she said that, though, it helped me understand y'all's relationship. And I actually envy y'all's relationship and how close you guys are and how much she loves you. And this last time when you were using and she was so mad.
Yeah.
And she would call the police.
Yeah.
And she was like, Scuyler is my favorite person on earth ever. But like, I'm really mad right now. You know what I mean? And the way she said it was like how I say it about my dad.
Yeah.
When like my father's my favorite human. That's how she feels about you. And when she said that night, like, no, it only happened because I was gone. It just kind of like broke my heart, like for her, for you. But it showed how important that dynamic was.
Totally. And for everything else, she was basically my mom.
Yeah.
Like she took care of me. She made me brush my teeth. She washed my face.
Yeah.
Cut my nails. She tortured me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like for everything else, she acted as my mom.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
I think it took a while but also my dad wasn't around.
Yeah.
My mom is a little spacey, a little bit.
I think she also really wants to see the good in everything.
Always, for sure. I think they were probably blind to the fact about how bad things were.
Yeah.
Luckily, when you do oxycontin and crystal meth, you pick your face.
Yeah.
So I started picking my face, but then I played it off as like, oh, I've got some skin thing. And she's sending me to these like dermatologists, and probably everybody knew what was going on. But like, probably we can ask her when she comes down here this week. I don't know how much they knew, but I'll tell you how I got caught finally.
Okay.
Yeah, so August, September started doing oxys. August, September, October, November, December. So Christmas break, December was when I was really strung out on oxys. And it was the first time I had really committed a crime. I had forged a check from I don't know if it was my aunt or grandma for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And
how'd you get a hold of their checkbook?
No. Well, they written me like $100.
Oh.
It was like $100 check or $75.
Okay.
But this is my creative drug addict mind. The first crime I commit is forging a check. Like I'm not like my desire to use gets my mind will solve any problem to get drugs. Like anything.
Yeah.
I think I got caught. It was probably my uncle.
So did you make it for more?
Yeah, it was like probably a $75 check, and I probably added like a $1.
Okay.
Something
like that.
Whatever it was.
Okay.
In all honesty, I don't remember what happened with that. Nothing. They didn't know I was strung out at that point.
What did they say about you forging the check? But you do remember you got caught. You just don't remember like the consequences.
I think I got caught. I
think
probably played off as like, oh, I don't know, like, yeah. Like, oh, I probably needed $100 more, like, you know, like something stupid.
Okay.
My parents go on a trip to Hawaii, and we had like a babysitter that would take care of us, Katie, who's awesome.
Oh, this is not the bad one. Isn't there one that you're like mad at?
No.
Oh, okay.
This might be the one you're thinking about.
Okay.
No, I'm not mad at her. She was at my dad's service and everything.
Oh, okay.
All that stuff.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I think she was trying. I think she knew what was going on. I think she had dealt with similar issues and stuff. And looking back, I was like, you're such an idiot. I had a bunch of 80s or whatever, and she's like moping around the house like, oh, my leg or my back or da da da. And I kind of like play it off for a while. And in my mind, I'm doing the right thing, right? And I'm like, if you're in pain, I have something that I can give you to help you out. She's like, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it.
So she tricked you?
Yeah, she fucking tricked me.
She pretended to be injured?
I think...
That's hilarious.
In my mind, that's what happened.
Okay.
I think she...
I fucking knew it.
Yeah, I fucking knew this. I'm fucking calling your parents. We're locking you in the fucking house. Like, it was like...
Okay.
And I was fucking... I'm total pussy. I'm totally scared. Like, I am not like a fuck you, get out of my house. Like, I'm like, oh man, this is bad. And yeah, that was what kind of opened the door.
Okay.
To everything. I think she knew, and I think my parents probably like. I think they were communicating a little bit something. Was really wrong.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure she tricked me. But like, that's how delusional you are, is to be like, hey, I've got oxycontin, I can help with your knee pain. Yeah, she keeps me fucking locked in the house or whatever. Like, it was bad. I was starting to detox, and then I had to start having people sneak over and like, oh, I got friends that just want to come visit and like drop over, and like, it was bad. At this point in school, I'd started failing classes. I had stopped going to school basically at some point. I don't know how I didn't get arrested at school for what I was doing. Basically, so at some point I get expelled from school. From just not going. My mom meets me there. We meet in the principal's office, and they're just basically like, because you can't just not go to school. Like, there's consequences if you just don't go to school. And basically they're like, there's nothing we can like. And the school had done everything to try to accommodate me. They had dropped me to like 2 classes a day.
Oh wow.
And this was after my parents had found out, like, so like they were trying to work and help me out and stuff. So like they were giving me the bare minimum allowed legally to try to keep me like going to school.
Okay.
And I couldn't do it. I could not, because I would go to San Francisco to buy drugs, and if I couldn't find them, I'd just stay in the city.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't have money, I'd sit in my car all day. Like, it just bad. Like, I'd just sit in my car all day and just be detox, because I didn't want to sit in class detoxing. I couldn't do it. So we meet my mom there. They're basically like, and like, I'm like sitting there like, whoa, why can't you just let me stay in school? And my mom basically at this point is fed up. Like, no, like, you're fucking done. Like, fuck this. Like, this is it. We're sending you to the East Coast. Like, so I storm out, get in my car, drive home. At this point, my mom, and the only thing my parents can do is to remove me from this situation. She takes me back to the East Coast on an island.
To Nantucket.
To Nantucket. This is in like, got expelled from school end of March. This was probably like April-ish. April, May. I had stolen some money from a family friend, and I had brought like 40 or 50 80s with me. So enough where I should have been. And in my mind, it's wean you off, right? Like,
okay.
So, and I had Adderall and all this stuff.
Was her plan to detox you, kind of?
Her plan was to just get me far enough away for long enough to where like I could. But yeah, she didn't know I brought drugs with me.
Right.
I'm such a bad drug addict. They're gone in a couple days.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I can wean myself off anything. It's not possible. So now I'm detoxing on an island, and I'm like, fuck, what am I supposed to do? Like, I was kind of working for a local handyman who was like kind of the caretaker of all the houses, and he was like working with me, and like he knew my situation. They're trying to help keep me busy and like occupied and stuff like that. I'd worked a couple days. He paid me a couple $100 or whatever, and I bought a plane ticket. I left. And I left my mom by herself on an island where there was nobody around her. And I flew cross country to San Francisco to get loaded because I just couldn't find anything there. And this is kind of the starting point of where shit really starts spiraling in my life. I'm staying at friends' houses. My parents don't know where I am. I'm like sleeping on one of my good friends' like couch, like I'm like sleeping in his room. My face, like I'm sitting in the bathroom picking my, like, you can't tell, but like
Scuyler picked bad,
my face
like apart. Really bad.
It's a miracle I don't have like half my face isn't scarred. And yeah, I'd be like and like it was like normal to me. Like my parents would be like searching for me, like, and like you think of my parents now and you're just like, wow, like this must have been it's hard for them. my dad was extremely angry because I'd left my mom. Like, I was basically just homeless, like hopping from house to house, like getting as loaded as possible. Then like I'd go home when like I'd kind of burn out, and then like I'd steal from them and I'd get loaded again and all this stuff. And April, May, June, I think it was end of June, beginning of July, where it took me so long to detox from oxys also. So one day my parents, like, they'd give me like the doctor was like, give him an Ambien to like help him sleep. It was probably 10 in the morning and I was just out of my mind detoxing. Sick. And I had snorted an Ambien, and anybody that snorted an Ambien, the old ones, knows it gets a little cuckoo. I stole my parents' car. I drove to the airport. I stole somebody's purse with the intent that that was a good idea and I could get away with it.
You just ran up, grabbed it, and ran, right? What'd you do again?
I went up and just grabbed it. Like
out in front of the airport.
Their luggage. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Grabbed it. Unbeknownst to me, the purse that I had grabbed, the lady's husband was a CHP officer.
Oh, shit.
Or an ex-CHP officer. So I hopped in my car and he just followed me.
Oh, my gosh.
Called the police and I got arrested. Yeah, it was a lot more serious than I thought it was because she had claimed I had a knife. So it started out as armed robbery. So, and like, I was like wondering, like when like all these, like there were like 20 police, like it was like I had just bombed.
Was she holding it when you grabbed it?
No, it was just sitting.
Was she near it?
No, she wasn't even close to it.
Oh.
So yeah, I had like hit a car on the, like it was like bad. Yeah, it was bad. And I got arrested. I was like literally 10 minutes from downtown San Francisco to get loaded. And I got arrested, and I'm such a bad criminal too. Like I got, like when they arrested me, I was like, yeah, I did it. Like when they brought me in and were like interviewing me, the detectives, I was like, yeah, I did it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know what the charges were.
Yeah.
That's how fucked up I was. So they transferred me to whatever jail, and I didn't know the severity of it. Like I thought everybody was just making a big deal about it. I was like, what are you like? You guys are overreacting right now. It took me 30 days of detoxing till I stopped like shaking. I was scared when
you couldn't bail out.
No, well, no, it was armed robbery.
Okay.
I had no money, and there's no chance my parents were.
They weren't going to bail you out.
No.
Okay.
Not a chance.
Okay.
It would be crazy to see my mugshot. I think I had long hair, a beard. I think my hair was bleach blonde.
I want to see that mugshot.
Probably looked like a psychopath. I was probably like 135 pounds. Like I was just all sorts of bad. And come to find out when I'm in there that she had said I had robbed her at knife point, and it was a very, very serious. It's a very serious charge. Because this was the first time that I gotten in trouble, my parents were scared enough. They got me the best attorney you could possibly get. They spent a fortune.
Okay.
Money they did not have at the time to help me out. And this guy, I was just, every time I'd see him, be like, come on, man, like, just get me out of here. Like, why can't I get out now?
The lawyer?
Yeah, it's just like, I was so mad, but they were just keeping me in there.
Yeah.
I think as it went on, like, you go to court and, like, the charges got dropped because, like, obviously you can prove I didn't have a knife. Like, that's why you pay lawyers a lot of money.
Well, and there's cameras. It's an airport, so.
Yeah, and it was very clear that this was theft and whatever.
Right.
But they kept me in there as long as they possibly could, and then I got, I think it was grand theft and
evading.
It was some sort of auto charge for stealing my mom's car, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever it was. And to me, that, like, this wasn't a big deal. Like, I was just like, I was so lost in life that, like, it was just weird. Like, and you're like in jail, and anybody that's been to jail knows, like, you ask you're like, man, like, what's like a class 1 felony? And you're like, man, you think I'm gonna get out of here next week? Like, and everybody's delusional. And because of the charge, I was in the high control, like, with like murder, like people that were
as a 19-year-old
murder, as 18-year-old spoiled Daryl kid from this area where this usually doesn't happen to people. And I was in South San Francisco, San Mateo, Redwood City. It was crazy. And that was that was my introduction into the criminal justice system. And
you didn't get in any fights or anything when you were in there, though, right?
No. People don't fight in jail because the consequences are severe if you get...
well, but they do sometimes.
You do. I mean, you'd see fights. So like they'd have to keep the Southerners and the Northerners.
Right.
But in California...
the Norteños he's talking about and the Southsiders.
Yeah, like... And I don't know if it's normal, but like they keep them in the same pot. Like, so like they let out certain doors of certain gangs or whatever, and then like every once in a while something bad happens, they don't get let out, and you see a fight break loose, and you're like,
okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't...
No, I never got in fights or whatever. I'm not confrontational
right.
with people, but I get along with everybody.
Yeah,
so like
that's true.
Not like I find a way to I'm a survivor.
That
in
jail
those
too was like a transient jail while people were getting sentenced, right? So it wasn't as like gang
so this
heavy.
was different.
Oh, that was
That's
later.
not Marin County.
Marin
County's a transient jail.
Okay. How long were you in this time that we're talking about?
I think I was in there for about 5 months.
Okay.
And then I was on high risk probation, but again, for whatever reason, I sneak through the cracks, and like I go to inpatient, and then from inpatient I move home, and I do like a intensive outpatient. Life is just like awful. Like I can't do anything. I don't know how to work. I don't want to work. Like I'm sad, I'm depressed, and like just consistently throughout this, like I use here, I use there, I drink here, I drink there. Like I never actually like do anything I'm supposed to.
Recovery wise. Did you think you were a drug addict?
No.
You didn't?
I didn't. I think it was just circumstances of my knee surgery.
Okay. And did you have any goals job wise? Did you want to?
No.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Ever. I don't even think I ever carried a job by just my parents. And at this point, I was just kind of hanging out with like a younger group of friends, and just delusional. Like that, like, hey, like probably some people thought I was cool. Like, oh, I've been to jail. But like, it was more like I was awful. Like I was really just like a mooch on society, like on life and society. And like, I wasn't good. Anybody that I was with or around before I relapsed, usually I stole from, like, and it just like was a constant cycle of this. And at some point my family had enough, and I moved to Orange County. And
do you think they can hear Tanky snoring?
I hope so.
You hope so? Okay.
That's my little boy right there.
If you guys can hear snoring, it's Tanky.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going.
I won't. Orange County is a lot of cocaine. A lot of ecstasy, a lot of cocaine, a lot of drinking, a lot of ruined friendships. At some point, the cocaine, I mean, like, yeah, it was bad. Like, it was really bad. Cocaine, it was to the point where, like, I was, like, stacking trash in my apartment. Like, my mom and my sister came down and, like, probably almost threw up when they walked in, and had to, like, clean the apartment. Like, because I was, like, my mom would send me rent checks, and I would cash it, and just spend $1,200 on cocaine. Like it was just bad. Like I wasn't going to school, wasn't doing anything. I got kicked out of my apartment because I basically was stealing from my buddy and this other girl that was living from us. They didn't want to live with me anymore. Moved to San Diego, and that was kind of my introduction into going across the border to get oxycontin, because from there I would have to drive home to San Francisco to get oxycontin.
From Orange County, you were going up.
Yeah.
Who told you could go to Mexico?
I don't know. I know you'd ask me that question. I think somebody that I was with knew somebody, because they were doing opiates at the same time. And they're like, yeah, there's this place that you can go across and you can get drugs. And,
okay.
But I was
Is that
scared.
the same place you've gone to this whole time? That one?
No.
Okay.
Way different.
Okay.
You used to be able to go across the border, and they had restaurants that you could walk into, and you could sit and get beers and like food and whatever, and they'd bring you whatever drugs you wanted.
Oh.
Whatever. As I left and life progressed, obviously they got raided and shut down, and then you have to get it other places. Yeah, so I moved to San Diego. I get an apartment on the boardwalk in Pacific Beach. Like, again, like I have no consequences in life. Like my parents do everything they can to help me out. It's their intention, though, that I'm going to school.
Right.
And I just don't stop using, so I can't go to school. I'm going to Mexico. I'm getting loaded, going to Mexico, getting loaded. This is like months and months and months. And at some point, I steal from my roommates and they kick me out. So at this point, I'm homeless. I don't think I have a car.
You had to have had a car.
No, because I had crashed it.
Oh.
I had driven up to San Francisco and I had crashed it.
Oh. Okay.
I was nodding off and I crashed. So I didn't have a car.
Okay.
But my parent, they didn't know about that. And they found out, obviously. But so, yeah. So, like, I was homeless. I was sleeping in, like, stairwells and sleeping on the beach. And
you're, like, 25, 24? 18,
19, 20, 21. Probably 22, 23.
Okay.
When this is going on. And, yeah, so I'm basically just, like, going back and forth from Mexico. And walking and just being homeless. And I think I was telling my parents, like, I was like going to school, like just like total craziness. They obviously knew what was going on, just bad stuff's happening. Like, and my addiction is so bad. I'm stealing from the dealers in Mexico. Like, that's where I go to.
Yeah.
And I've robbed these places and I've come back the next day and I've gotten my ass whooped, and they're basically like, okay, that's settled, like, keep going. I came back with the money.
Will you tell the dugout story?
Yeah. So what got me out of San Diego was, so I was basically like, I was walking around with a suitcase in Tijuana basically, and I was just having people give me drugs, and I'd run pretty fast when I need to be, even back then. And actually probably not. Probably in my mind, I'm fast. When I look back and see, I feel like they probably knew who I was because I was doing this. It's a small community. They probably knew some crazy white kid was going around like robbing people.
Okay.
Getting a taxi. These 3 guys drive off somewhere. It's nighttime. They hand me it was like $3.80 or something. It wasn't a lot, but they hand it to me and I fucking just jump out of the taxi and run. I'm like, yes, I'm gone. I'm like, I made it. And this fucking sports field had 50-foot high fences encircling the whole thing, and you couldn't get out. And I was like, oh, motherfuckers. Like, it's like, God damn it. I didn't know where I was. Like, I couldn't see the border, so I couldn't see like bright lights. I'm smart enough to know that your best chance of survival is not fighting back.
Okay.
So you
start trying to climb the fence, right?
Oh, I tried to climb the fence, but like I got into a point. It was literally 50 feet tall. Like it looked like that tall. Right. Like it looked tall enough to where I couldn't climb it. So I come down and I get beaten up pretty bad by 3 guys. They're smashing my head in the car and the taxi. And
really bad.
Really bad. Really, really bad. For some reason they had stopped. I don't think they wanted to kill an American.
Okay.
Probably. Whatever the reason was, they stopped. And I had somehow made it to the border, bloody, beaten up really bad. And I like collapsed and like I got picked up in an ambulance and taken to the hospital.
In Mexico?
No, I'd made it to...
Oh, you crossed.
The border and made it across.
Okay.
I basically had like collapsed when I got in there and they called an ambulance and picked me up. Yeah, taken to the hospital, that whole deal. But like in my mind... I'm like, oh, I'll get pain pills. Like, if I go to the hospital, I'm going to get pain. Like this.
You remember thinking
this
that?
Was worth it. Yeah, this was worth it. Yeah, and just whatever it was. And I think at this point, my parents were scared. So they had flown me back home. But what do you do? What do you do with a kid that's this bad? Like,
yeah.
I have no regard for anybody I'm around. I will rob anybody that's close to me. I will do anything to get loaded. And I'm really I manipulate the shit out of everybody that's close to me. And I think the way I look, I think is deceiving because they're like, oh, you're not that bad. And I've had doctors tell me that before because they're like, oh, you can't be that bad.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, I've been denied like Suboxone when it first came out. They're like, oh, you can't be that bad. You're only 18 years old. Like, you're like, how bad could you be?
Yeah.
And that has kind of been a thing.
A theme.
Like, oh, yeah, like just like they're like, oh, you're not that like you couldn't be that bad. Like you don't look that bad.
Yeah.
All this going on, like they try to help me out, figure out there's just like it's a lot of like miscellaneous stuff that happens. I go to a bunch of different treatments, yada yada yada.
Do you ever do treatment the way they ask you to?
No.
Steps or anything?
I always lie. I always forge a court card.
Okay.
I always pretend like I go to meetings.
Okay.
And at some point, a family friend had recommended I try to go to like this entertainment business school in Florida. And I applied and got in and did all this stuff. But I was using at the time, you know, I was like about to go, and I started breaking into family friends' houses to take jewelry and money and all that sort of stuff. And I did it before I went. So like I'd stolen all this stuff. I'd collected a bunch of drugs and left. Come to find out, the day that I had left on the plane, which I almost missed because I was scared to leave, literally about 100 yards from my parents' house up the street, this lady, there was a home invasion and she got murdered. So I think the cops knew that I was involved in the people's houses because I think the people knew it was me going into the houses because they were family friends. It's a community. This doesn't happen that often. So this is a very big deal in what's happening because they think that I had murdered somebody. They raid my parents' house when I'm in Florida.
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, they go in, they're searching for evidence, all this stuff. So I'm in Florida. I'm having drugs shipped to me, and I'm just like totally clueless about what's going on in the world. Again, like I get on the phone with the police. Like I don't know that this other stuff had happened. I thought like I was just with this breaking into these houses. I'm like, yeah, I did it. Yeah, like I stole, I'm sorry. Like I was, and then basically at this point I was like, here, I'll fly back and turn myself in. Oh no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Like good old police detective. Like, no, don't worry about it. A couple days later, fucking Florida sheriff comes like ready to smash in my door, arrest me with like a no-knock warrant at the apartment that I'm at because they think that I had murdered this. So it was a really serious situation, right? In my mind, though, I don't think it's that serious. I'm like, whatever. It's my family friends. Just like talk to them, like get them on the phone. We'll be fine. I was on Suboxone and all this at this point, even though I was still doing opiates or whatever. So I get stuck in Orange County Jail in Florida for 90 days before I get extradited. And this is just how crazy life is when you're a drug addict. Is like, in this situation, I don't really realize the severity when U.S. Marshals come and pick you up and fly you cross country, right? And
did you know by then, though, that they thought you murdered someone? You had to.
No.
Oh, you still didn't?
I didn't really realize what was going on at that point. They were keeping it. I think they were trying to keep it quiet to try to catch, like, whatever they do. I don't.
Okay.
Whatever it is. I think they were trying to, like, catch me and pretend, like, act like get me to say something or whatever. And I remember like being in the car on the way to the airport with the U.S. Marshals. I'm like, yeah, like when I get back and sober, I want to help people. And, you know, like whatever you guys need. Like I was really just fucking, I was psychotic. Like
you think you were when you look back?
I was just psychotic. Like, I was like, yeah, I'll work with you guys. Like we can help people. Like these U.S. Marshals were basically like, you know, like all we care about is getting you back. Like if you run, we're just going to shoot you.
They said that?
Yeah. Like, we're not even going to chase you. We're just going to shoot you in the back. I'm like, yeah. You've got your hands handcuffed in, like, this, like, big, it was like a 49ers, like, old school, like raincoat type deal.
Oh, parka thing?
Yeah, your hands are handcuffed like this under it.
They hide the handcuffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have your hands like this with, like, a big jacket on, and they move you through security separately, and they seat you in the
That would have pissed your dad off the most, that it wasn't a Raiders parka.
Yeah, probably pretty bad. Yeah, I'm glad he didn't know about that.
It's like, fuck, if you murdered somebody, that's a 49ers fucking parka.
It's like, fuck this shit.
Okay, so fuck.
So yeah, they seat you in the back of the plane, and it's like, in my mind, so I'm going back to Marin County Jail. In my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna know people that are there. Like, it's gonna be really cool. Like, probably like really cush. Like, it's in Marin, right? This fucking jail sucks. It's underground. So this jail is underground. You don't have direct sunlight. It's built into the side of a mountain, probably so that the rich people around don't have to see this big sprawling thing. You have like a little yard, and it's got like a opening in a mountain. So it's like you just have a cage, and it's just like you can like kind of hear the cars, but you barely get direct sunlight. You're locked down 23 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
It's a high risk jail because it's the San Quentin
transfer point.
It's like where you go to court for San Quentin and where you get transferred in. But I had gotten in the treatment pod.
Okay.
So that was kind of the first real intro to recovery that I gotten.
Okay.
Was in there. And I was in jail.
Like going to meetings and stuff?
Going to meetings. So I got a residential burglary strike. They were trying to give me 2 strikes. So I would have gotten double striked for this, but I got 1, and then receiving stolen property, I think, was the other charge. I spent a calendar year almost in there, or 9 or whatever. They give you 9 months, 10 months. But then you get out and you're like, what do you do? So I'm on high risk probation again.
You have a felony and a strike.
I have a felony and a strike.
And you're like 24.
Yeah, 24. And I'm trying to think about what I was doing at this point. I really wasn't doing anything. And I basically started using pretty quickly. You know, like time goes by and, you know, I'm not really doing anything. I think I'm just like hanging out with people and whatever.
They end up figuring out, I just want to add this because I know this. They end up figuring out you didn't kill the lady because you were on an airplane.
I was on an airplane.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how that ends. Yeah. That's how that ends.
Sorry. Yeah. I did not do that. Yeah. So I'd left early in the morning and the home invasion happened at night that same day. Okay. But if I hadn't left, so that's like.
They might have thought you did it.
It probably would have been a lot easier to try to nail me for it if I wasn't on that plane. But again, like in my mind, like this is all I'll just forget about it. It's fine. Again, the cycle of addiction and craziness, at some point, again, I start using and been strung out and I end up homeless in San Francisco. And again, like you think the consequences can't get worse, but they just they keep getting worse. I start basically having to like prostitute myself in San Francisco. I don't really tell a whole lot of people about it.
Do you want to say that here? Because you don't have to.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Basically, like there are people that drive around San Francisco and pick up homeless, sick people. And, you know, pretty obvious what happens after that. And it's something I've never been put in a situation. I mean, I guess getting your ass beat pretty badly is putting yourself in a situation you can't get out of. None of these situations were something I was forced into other than through my addiction. And it carried a heavy burden on my heart for a very long time because I was ashamed.
Yeah.
It's something you don't get over really quickly. It's basically like you get picked up. I was walking around with a suitcase in the Tenderloin. I was just sick out of my mind. You get like driven and you're basically just treated like a prostitute, basically, and like stuck at somebody's house for a couple days. And just, it's like a cycle like that. And you're just like, what, like, and it took me years and years and years. And it took and therapy. I'll talk about it because hopefully somebody that's been in my situation and has been through that. And I think
if you want to take it out later, we can too. So
no, it's fine. It's fine. I've dealt with it enough to where I can say it and be honest about it. Okay. I think it happens a lot more than people want to admit. Yeah. And I think they're ashamed. I mean, I'm ashamed to this day, and I have not forgiven anybody that has compromised my life like that. Right. But hopefully it can help somebody, and that's why I'm on here with you. It's to help people. But yeah, so that, again, getting extradited and almost being charged with murder is not enough. I am homeless, having to prostitute myself in San Francisco. That's not enough. So homeless treatment centers in San Francisco are not nice. I had ended up in a homeless treatment center, and basically at this point, like what their method is to get you on methadone. Oh, okay. That's kind of like I think that's like a homeless, when you're homeless, get people on methadone to try to get them to stop using in San Francisco. And it works for a lot of people. Yeah. I had to walk 5 miles from this homeless shelter to San Francisco General to get methadone every morning. So before this had happened, so I come from a very good family in a very good neighborhood. My family knows a lot of people. There's connections everywhere. But when you're using and you push everybody away, there's nobody there to help you. And even probation, for somebody like me, there's nobody there to help you. And I remember before I had gone to San Francisco to get on methadone, I was like, fuck, like I was so sick. I was walking around, like, I don't know what I was doing. And I was trying to get into treatment, trying to get help or trying to get into a homeless shelter. And you're calling probation. They're basically like, we can't help you. There's nowhere where we can put you.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do. And you think that this just happens to like certain groups of people. But this is the reality for anybody that's stuck in the criminal justice system. I think the criminal justice system is disproportionately geared towards a certain class of people. And it's fucked. And it's really unfair. And it's really not cool that your job when you're in jail is to pay your debt to society, right?
Right.
But what about afterwards? Like,
right.
There's nobody there to help you. There's no services to help. Maybe things have changed. This was a long time ago.
There are now, like, you get a phone and stuff, but we're talking
I'm speaking of
however long ago this was, right?
A long time ago. Not that these probation officers were bad people.
Right.
She was actually very nice, my probation officer, but they were absolutely useless at helping you out in a time of need other than locking you up. That's it.
Yeah.
So I had gone to Health and Human Services to try to get into treatment, try to get into a homeless shelter. And they're basically like, we can't help you out. I don't know whether part of that was because, like, when you look at my ID, it shows Tiburon.
Oh.
So I think people looked at my situation, were like, why can't somebody help you out?
Right. Yeah.
Like, there are people in more need than you are.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
On the surface.
Right.
I think there are people in worse situations as a whole.
Yeah.
I think my personal situation was as worse as as bad as you could get at that point.
Right.
So basically tell me there's nothing we can do. I'm sick as a dog. And I was basically at the end of my rope, and I was basically like, I just want to die. This was the first time I was basically like, I can't do this. And I was sitting in there, and I don't know if I've ever told you this. I actually tried to take I tried to take a couple laptops from the Health and Human Services.
Oh my gosh, no, I did not know that.
Yeah. I got caught, and they're like, oh, we're going to call the police. And I'm like, no. And at this point, I'm prepared to walk in the freeway and just get hit by a car. And I'm like, fuck no. Like, what if I live and I don't want to be paralyzed?
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. So I walk outside and I find a razor and I slit my wrist in front of the Health and Human Services. I'm just cutting my wrist to, like, just please, like, die. And the cops show up. I get 5150'd, take me to the hospital. This is also how bad it is for drug addicts. And again, I'm speaking from, this happened a while ago.
Yeah.
Things might be a little different now. I mean, I'd cut my wrist severely. I was sick. I was detoxing. I got 5150'd. So I think it's a 3-day hold.
Yeah.
They held me for 16 hours and were basically like, there's nothing we can do for you.
Oh, shit.
So they tell me I have to leave. No taxi to go anywhere. No shuttle. No phone. Like, nothing. At this point, I had nothing. I couldn't do anything. My family, I think my mom was traveling and my dad was traveling because of course I had sent everybody a text before I did it and was like, yeah, I'm going to kill myself. I love you guys. Like, sent like a family group text before I did it. And yeah, I basically had to call a cab and have them drive. Long story short, I had found a bed somewhere.
Okay.
Basically just had to have a taxi cab drive me there. And then when I was there, tell them I didn't have any money. And what was I going to do?
Yeah.
But from there, then I go to San Francisco. So it's like I commit suicide or try to commit attempted suicide. And then from there, go to the city. From the city, I get on methadone and with the intent of, at this point, my probation officer realizes what's really going on. And she's like, okay, we're going to remand you and we're going to get you help because you can get county services from jail.
Okay.
They're like, that's the only way that we can get you help right now. Or we're going to charge you with probation violations and stuff like that or whatever. So, yeah, so I go into jail on methadone. And then you come to find out you can't get into state-run facilities if
on
you're
methadone.
on methadone. So I'm on methadone for about 9 months in jail, just building up tolerance, and then find out that you got to come off methadone to get in this place. So I have to kick methadone in jail. It is very hard to get them to get you off of methadone in jail. Maybe things have changed, but it's actually quite a thing.
Okay.
To like go to court and go to like the sheriff. Like, yeah, it's like a big deal.
Okay.
And also what happened was I was sentenced to a calendar year for 2 probation, like 6 months. So like a calendar year, my calendar year was up and I wasn't off of methadone. So we had to basically, I don't know if it was illegal or if like basically like you had to ask. It's very against the law to hold somebody in jail past their sentencing.
Yeah.
So we basically had to and this again, it's like, this is just how my life goes, just crazy shit like this. You basically have to go to like ask permission to stay in jail. Yeah. So I had to ask permission to stay in jail. It was probably just like 30 days. And I get off and I go to this behavior modification program where they probably not really allowed to do that stuff anymore. But it was kind of my introduction into working was through this behavior modification program. I was there for 6 months. I ended up relapsing because like a buddy got kicked out and just whatever. But yeah, you know, it's just a never ending cycle of just
that kind
relapse,
of stuff.
Jail, relapse, treatment, relapse. And it was probably like I spent almost a calendar year, got out, calendar year, and then 6 months in a behavior modification program. And like I used right when I get out. And I ended up getting a job at Sears somehow. I think they had like companies or they hire
felony friendly.
And I was doing pretty good for a while. I was, I was living in like a halfway house. Like I was actually like doing pretty good. And I decided to buy a bunch of Oxy-30s one day and it just spiraled. And I started, so like, I think I had like a 7-year suspended sentence from the felony strike.
Okay.
They really kind of gave it to me to scare me to not do it again. And I started stealing. I started charging money on gift cards at Sears and taking it.
Oh, okay.
So I stole from my employer. They obviously found out at some point, but I had like gotten it back or whatever. So at this point, I'm scared because I think I'm going to prison for 7 years or whatever, 5 or 7 years, whatever it was. I consistently had the same judge and she was very direct, but I think some people in my life see me or the opportunity that maybe I can have if my life isn't totally fucked by going to prison.
Yeah.
And I think she was one of those people and I'm grateful that she didn't send me to prison and I got put into drug court.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I complete drug court. I get through the whole, 13 months or whatever. And after that is when I moved back down to San Diego. I'm not really going to get into a lot of
fine.
relationships and people involved. But again,
can we just say a relationship brought you down here?
Yeah.
You were living with a girlfriend.
Yeah, a relationship brought me down here. I tend to like get in relationships sporadically. It's always when I'm not spun out or strung out.
Right. When you meet them.
When I meet them. But then
at some point you start using again.
100% of the time I start using, and obviously that cycle of stealing, manipulating, lying, cheating, just it happens with every relationship I've been in.
Yeah.
We moved down to San Diego. I'm not doing anything with my life. Like I had no purpose. Like I literally was just like kind of like a meathead. I'd work out every day and my apartment was paid for. I never worked. I don't think I worked the whole time I was down here until the very end when girlfriend at the time had realized that I was using and my mom had realized I was using again. And they're basically like, you need to get a job and pay for your shit. And this is enough. At some point, again, I'd gotten kicked out. She had had enough and I was living out of my car. And living out of my car, I was living down in TJ. That's kind of my go-to place.
Your go-to move.
Yeah, my go-to spot. And for some reason, and I am grateful for her for this. I don't know how it came about, but I don't know if she found a treatment for me to get into. She was talking with my mom.
Yeah.
I don't know I can't remember how it happened, but they got me into this treatment, and I was at this point. If I get to a point, I'll commit crimes.
Yeah.
I'm not violent. Anybody that's ever met me knows I'm not violent, but I will do whatever I need to get loaded. My need to get high is way bigger than anything else.
Yeah.
So at this point, I was prepared to rob somebody and commit another crime to get across the border to get drugs, and somehow $300 popped into my bank account.
Well, why don't you share the prayer that you said? Because you consider this a spiritual experience, and I think it's valid.
So this was the first time. So my grandma had passed away. I don't know what made me do it, but I was basically, I'm not religious. There's no faith, no spirituality, no nothing. And basically at this point, I'm just like I do okay in jail. I'm fine. It's whatever. It sucks, but like it is what it is. But like I'd never want to go back. Like I never want to go back. Basically, at this point, I knew I was about to do something where I would have gone to prison because of my past. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I prayed to my grandma, like, please, like, watch over me, like, help me right now. And basically what I was doing was like I had a bunch of past charges on my bank account. I was contesting them to try to get money back. And it was a holiday. I think it was whatever holidays in March.
I mean, St. Patrick's Day, but.
And I was like, there's no, and I prayed. I was like, please, God, help me in this moment. I do not want to have to do this. Like, I don't. And I was prepared to. I walk over to the ATM, there's fucking $300 in my bank account. My mom didn't put it in.
Right.
I knew it was a charge I had contested, but it was it was either Sunday or banking, whatever it was. And I just was like,
and you took that as a sign.
I took that as a sign, and I took that $300 I'd owed the person I was getting drugs from in Mexico. I owed him money, and I gave him the $300. Was like, look, like I owe you this. Like I'm about to, and I think this is what I said. I said, I'm gonna go to treatment. Can you front me? I was like, can you front me like $150 worth of oxys? He said yes. And these were people that were basically telling me like I needed to pull my life together, like. And
like the connects in Mexico.
Well, and it not that they're different than like connects anywhere else. Like
right.
I understand people need to make a living. Like I don't think of drug dealers like that.
No. Drug dealers are just addicts, usually, not always.
But when certain people are basically like, hey, like you need to figure your life, and $1,000 a day habit,
right?
Basically, just going down every day, 1,000, like nonstop, like clockwork. So I was making their life very good. And these people were basically just like, you need to stop doing this. And he gave me the drugs, knowing that I might not pay him back. I took the drugs and I called my ex and was like, hey, how do I? And my mom had never stopped paying for my insurance.
Oh, okay.
So I think she was about to stop.
Okay. Health insurance.
And she had never stopped paying for my phone.
Okay.
So I had called the detox. I think, they could take me in the next day, but I had enough drugs to get me through the day and the night. And my ex, through all this, got me and drove me up there. And that started this chapter in my life where I got to sober living and I got to experience life.
This is the part where we talked about when we started, where you actually got, in my mind, the recovery years. Yeah. You're 29.
Yeah.
This is the recovery years to now.
Of my life. Yeah. So